Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. So, the next point is the next sutra. So, we have seen arguments and arguments to prove, to show that the Jagat Karanam, the source of the universe, is not pradhanam, is not something material. The source of the universe is not material. Because anything that you refer to as material, anywhere there is something material, it's a part of the creation, not the source of the creation. Therefore, when we use the word creation, creation means the totality of matter. And matter means 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. What else is matter? I mean, what a scientist, a physicist calls matter, Vedanta calls it as the 5 elements, Pancha Mahabhutas: space, air, fire, water. Space is a part of creation. Space, not creation, took place in space. So, it is not that the creation took place in space. There were, particles of matter present in space and they exploded and then the whole creation. This is a bang theory. We are saying space itself is a part of creation. If physical space is not a part of creation, supposing it's not a part of creation, then it would be eternal. If it is eternal, then it would become the truth. Then if it becomes the truth, then you can't transcend it. Truth can't be transcended. But you slip to space. And sleeping to space means transcending space. So, if space is available for being transcended, then space is not the truth. That means it's not eternal, which means it's not the source of creation, it is a part of creation. That's why when I transcend one of the 5 elements, I transcend all the 5 elements. You can't transcend form. You can't transcend the earth and still be aware of the other 4 elements. When we transcend the earth, the form, we transcend the sound, we transcend the sound, the space, the taste, the smell, these are all meaning the water, the earth, the water, the fire, all these things we transcend. That means I transcend the body, and the body is 5 elements. Body has space, air, fire, water, earth. So when I transcend body, now I can't transcend a part of the body and then not to transcend another part of the body. This is a very, very clearly available, it's a very well experienced phenomenon. So there is no use of really ignoring what we are experiencing and then trying to speculate some other truth. If there is a truth, it has to be found within my experiences. And if it is beyond my experiences, neither I can find out, nor is it going to be useful for me anyway. However great it is, it's not going to be useful for me because it's beyond my experience. What is beyond my experience? What do I do with that? What do I do with that? It is irrelevant to me. I don't care, even if it is truth, so what? It is an irrelevant truth. It is a contradiction in terms to say an irrelevant truth, because truth must be relevant. Therefore, if you say there is something else beyond experience, it is an irrelevant speculation. It is your speculation which is irrelevant to one's well-being. It is your speculation, irrelevant speculation, not irrelevant even truth. And therefore here, if space is a part of the creation, then everything that is material in nature is a part of the creation. And then if there is a source of the creation, that source has to be non-material. And the non-material, there is only one thing that is non-material, only Chetanam, the observer. The observer is not a part of what he observes. The observer may observe what he observes, but the observer is not literally a part of what he observes, because what he observes is matter. What he observes is physical. What he observes is the temporal world, name, form, sound, taste, touch, smell, this world. Whereas that's inert, what the observer observes is inert, and the observer is conscious. So the conscious cannot be a literal part of what he observes, light. The light is not a part of the table. In the sense, light is not something like the leg is a part of the table. This top is a part of the table. Like every bit of the table is a part of the table. But the light in which the table gets illumined, that light is not a constituent part of the table. In that manner, our existence, is like that light. The observer is aware of the creation. And the one who is aware of the space, air, fire, water, earth, the body, mind, emotions, he also testifies to their absence. So, when I am with them, it is called immanence. I'm just using some new terms, don't worry. There's nothing great about it. It's all you. When you are aware of the world, that is the immanence of the observer. Immanence of the observer. Meaning he is there with what he observes. The immanence. And the world is, I am. That is called immanence. But when the world is not, I still am. That is called transcendent. And wave is, water is. That is Immanence. The water is immanent. The water is it's just two English terms. It doesn't mean anything. Actually, our Sanskrit words are better. Anvaya Vyatireka. I find that's more conveying. Okay, but supposing you read some English book and then you come across immanent to transcendent. Then Swamiji to Patayani immanent transcendent. Okay, you can take that too out. It means it is nothing but Anvaya and Vyatireka Nyaya. When the wave is, water is. That's the Anvaya of the water. The immanence of the water. When the wave is not, water still is. That is the Vyatireka of the wave, Anvaya of the water. That means water has continuity. The continuity enjoyed with the water is called Anvaya. The discontinuity enjoyed by the wave, the discontinuity by the wave is called Vyatireka. So, there is something discontinuing, there is something continuing. And the discontinuity of what discontinues cannot be known unless there is something continuous. The observer has to continue. What discontinues cannot testify to its own discontinuity. What discontinues cannot testify to its own discontinuity. What continues testifies to what discontinues. Therefore, we cannot even think of a phenomenon called that discontinuity without there being something that continues. That's why I say, without the eternal, there would be no knowledge of the non-eternity. Without there being the eternal, the idea, the very idea of the non-eternal would not be there. Because the non-eternal cannot testify to its being non-eternal. It is the eternal that testifies to the non-eternity of the non-eternal. The negation of the non-eternal. Therefore, thus, the truth is immanent in the world. It is there when the world is. It is there when the world is not. It is there when the thought is. It is there when the thought is not. That is its immanence. That is also its transcendence. Truth is both immanent and transcendent. Meaning truth has Vyatireka. Truth has Anvaya. Anvaya with the world, Anvaya without the world. It is there with the world, it is there without the world. That is the Anubhava. That's what we are actually experiencing without registering. It's not a school built. The literature about the truth is not a school, a speculation built. It's not constructing a philosophy or constructing a theory or constructing a school and then selling it. $100 a copy. It's not that. Our existence, that we are aware, is not a school. That we are aware is not a school. That we are aware is our experience. Undeniable, unquestionable experience. Universal experience. And if there is an unquestionable, universal experience, then you don't call it school of thought. It's not. That is why Vedanta is not a school. That is why Vedic culture is not a school. It is not a school. It is not a speculation done by some joker. You see? Speculation. Therefore, if what I observe is inert, then the source of what I observe is not again another inert. That's all that you have to dwell on. You have to put your foot down. Say it can't be so. However much universally it may be taken. People may take. Not to come under the influence of the world is important. Because the world may not be, people may not be right. See? Universal anubhava is different from universal thinking. Universal thinking means, everybody, universal conclusion. Universal conclusion is different from universal anubhava. That we are aware is universal anubhava. It's not a universal conclusion. That I am aware is universal anubhava. Everybody is anubhava. And that I am a form is universal conclusion, contrary to universal anubhava. The universe, I am a form. Hey, if you are aware, then you can't be a form. If I am a form can't be aware. If body, the form can be aware, then the table also should be aware. So, this universe is not aware of itself. That is the main thing. Universe is not aware. The objects are not aware of one another. Therefore, that I am the form is a universal conclusion. That I am aware of it is a universal anubhava. And the universal conclusion, a wrong conclusion, it's a universal error. This universal erroneous conclusion, this universal error is what we call adhyasa. Sarvaloka Bhagavan Bhashankaracharya says, Sarvaloka prasiddhaha naisargikaha yam loka vivaharaha sarvaloka pratyakshaha. This is universal error. Contrary to universal anubhava. Otherwise, that I am the form is a wrong conclusion. We determine the conclusion that I am the form is erroneous because it runs counter to anubhava. Anything that runs counter to the unquestionable experience, anything that runs counter to the unquestionable, undeniable, unnegatable, unfalsifiable, choiceless experience, anything that runs counter to that universal, undeniable anubhava is an error, is erroneous. That the fire is hot, universal anubhava. And if somebody thinks that fire is cold, then what is it? It is a conclusion contrary to the anubhava that it is hot. This is what we are doing. And therefore, if the world is inert, the source of it has to be Chaitanya. This is one, and there are some other aspects. If the world is objectified, the source cannot be objective. It's not a sense object. If the world is objectifiable, the source is not objectifiable. The world is an object, and the source is not an object. Not an object means the very subject. You can't say the world is an object and its source is also another object, because I am defining the world. Everything that is in the form of an object is a part of the world. And if there is a source, then it should not be again an object. That is not an object. Therefore, The source of it has to be the subject. It is this thinking, really, that can help man out sometime or the other. Initiating human thinking into this reality, into the Shastram, can one day or the other facilitate the understanding of the truth. If I am thinking in the direction of the truth, then I have a hope of grasping it. If I am thinking in some other direction, totally contrary to the truth, and I may be thinking in the opposite direction, thinking that I am thinking in the right direction. I may be thinking that I am all right in the right direction, but I may be going in the wrong direction. And if I am not thinking in the direction of the truth, then I have no hope of ever understanding the truth. In fact, in Indian culture, we value initiation into right thinking is as important as achieving the very truth. The very resolve to be good it amounts to achieving goodness. The very resolve to be a good human being amounts to accomplishing being a good human being. The very resolve, the very first step in the right direction it amounts to reaching the goal, treading on the right. In other words, the very resolve to go to Gangotri is almost like reaching Gangotri. Adi. The very resolve to go to Gangotri is almost like reaching Gangotri. मेरे लिए तो ऐसे ही है. जिस दिन मैं रिजॉल्व करता हूँ जाने के लिए, उस दिन तो मैं तो सपना देखते रहता हूँ गंगोत्री में. Similarly, a lot of people, when they make a resolve to Balaji, it is almost reaching. They are so happy. We should always value beginning the right path. Doesn't matter how long it takes. That I am on the right track, that's important. I am learning, that's it. I am learning. I may take a long time to learn, but I am learning. Gives you fulfillment. There is fulfillment. Similarly here, if at least if human thinking is initiated, if man is told, hey, you are searching for the truth in the material world, neither truth is a literal part of the material world, nor the truth is something hiding behind the material world out there. The truth is not away from the one who is aware, the light of the world. The one who is aware of the world is the light of the world. To be light is to be aware. What else is light? To be aware, to be conscious is the light. The one who is aware of the dream, the one who dreamt and became aware of the dream is the light of the dream. And the dream goes and the light remains. The light remains. Swayam Jyotihi. We use the word Swayam Jyotihi. Self-luminous light. Self-luminous light. We are aware of the physical light, therefore we are the light of the light. This is what Bhagavan says. Jyotisham api tajyotihi tamasah paramuchyate. Truth is the light of lights, means truth is the light that lights up the sun. God is the light that lights up the sun, that lights up the moon, that lights up every physical light. And That the truth lights up all the physical light, that the truth lights up all the physical light is not another speculation. In fact, that is again our experience. That I am aware of the sun, that is what is called being the light of lights. That I am aware of the sun. Being aware of the sun is called being the light of the lights. Therefore, that the truth is the light of the lights is not another speculative thought. That is anubhava. And therefore, unless one makes the beginning, unless one begins to think in the right direction, there is no hope of finding out the truth. Therefore, as long as I am the observer is looking for his fullness in what he observes, the truth is looking for its fullness in what it observes. The observer is looking for his fullness. The observer of the form is trying to extract his fullness, completeness, satisfaction from the form. So he is all the time feeding. He is eating. He wants to eat the form. He wants to eat the sounds. He wants to eat tastes and touches and smells. He wants to just eat the world. By eating, he wants to get fullness. So the food, before eaten, it remains inert food. The food, after being eaten, remains inert food. Nothing happens after all. The food that I ate becomes a part of the body again remains inert. And the observer remains incomplete. The observer, even though he eats a lot of the creation, goes on consuming, thinking that I will be satisfied one day. This is endless process. Who doesn't understand this? It is endless process. That is why here he says, Shastra says, hey, the source of the inert world can't be inert. It's not pradhanam. It is chetanam. Why? I have given the master logic. All that is available in the form of the matter should be counted as a part of the creation. There is no use of speculating. There is another matter which is the source of the creation. Because matter, physical or subtle, manifest or unmanifest, matter is part of the creation. And if there is a source of the creation, should not be physical, inert, lifeless matter. The source of the matter should be non-matter. And the non-matter means the one who observes matter. The observer of matter is not matter, is conscious. If this is the thinking, then there is a hope that one day this observer would discover his glory. This observer would discover himself being the truth, the Brahman, by way of overcoming his wrong notions about himself. I can hope to reach success provided I am thinking in the right direction. And if I am searching for the fulfillment in what I am observing, no length of time is adequate. In fact, even for infinite number of years, for thousands of ages, one may go on searching for the fulfillment in the form. It's not. So that's what is called punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Even if I take life again and again, and do the same job of chewing the world for fulfillment, all the time chewing, consuming, eating up the creation. Nothing happens. Therefore, here it says, Kutascha, now the next sutra. I have given enough introduction. Now we go to the next sutra. Just as the source of the inert should be non-inert, by the same logic, the source of the object should be non-object, meaning the subject. If there is something, and it is not, should not be an object, it can only be subject. I can't speculate anything else. I can't speculate, because speculation is of no use. I don't experience anything non-object and yet other than the subject. I don't experience anything non-object except as the subject. The only thing that I experience as the non-object is the subject. I don't experience anything else. Therefore, why should I disown what I am experiencing as the non-object and postulate, speculate something I don't experience? Why ignore what is in Anubhava? Why ignore what we experience and postulate, speculate, imagine what I don't experience? For this, the Drishtanta, the example, the Shastra, the Vedanta gives a beautiful example. Supposing you have a laddu in your hand. You have a laddu. Balaji wala laddu. Balaji wala laddu is there in your hand. And then first, out of sheer one's negligence, you throw it away. And then afterwards, start licking the hand. जो लड्डू था उसको डस्ट में छोड़ दिया. Then somebody comes and says, hey, it was such a nice laddu, right? Oh really? चलो जो थोड़ा बहुत बचा है. Then lick the hand. See? Modakam tyaktva karam lady. That is the Modakam tyaktva, having thrown the sweet meat, then karam, the hand, lady. Lady means lick. Similarly, ignoring the truth that is within your anubhava and then imagine something that is not in anubhava is like throwing away the thing at hand, throwing away something in your hand and afterwards repenting. Or just licking the hand. Licking the hand means the laddu that is not there. You are looking for the laddu. Having thrown away the laddu, then you are speculating the laddu. Ignore the truth in anubhava and then speculating the truth. Speculating is like licking the hand. Therefore, if there is a physical universe, the source has to be something conscious. If it is an object, then the source has to be the subject. And if we are clear about this, then the next sutra can speak to us. It is very beautiful sutra. This must be listened to very, very attentively. Must be listened to exhaustively. There is nothing but very clearly pointing out the anubhava. Kutascha. Now say the introduction to the next one. Kutascha. What else is the reason? Why else? Kutaha cha. Why else? Pradhanam. The pradhanam. Na sachabda vachyam. What else is the reason for? What else is the reason for us to, what else is the reason why Pradhanam is not the meaning of the word Sat? What else is the reason for the word Sat not meaning Pradhanam? Why else Sat doesn't mean Pradhanam? Why else Sat doesn't mean Pradhanam? Means Sat doesn't mean matter. Why else truth doesn't mean matter? Why else does the word truth not mean matter? Either manifest or unmanifest. Sat doesn't mean matter. Truth doesn't mean just matter. Say if I have given we have seen, one argument, that's a very important argument, not speculation. Bhashyakara himself is going, the Sutrakara himself will say, and we have seen it also, Tanishthasya Mokshopadesha, this particular argument we saw. If this matter were truth, then facing it I should have no problem. If matter were truth, then eating it, seeing it, hearing it, tasting it, touching it, smelling it, identifying with it, being a part of this world, the truth, I should have no problem. You see? And despite the perception of the truth, if I still have the problem, then what is the use of going after the truth anyway? Then the very study for truth is of no use. If supposing somebody says, knowledge of truth need not liberate you from your problems. Knowledge of truth need not liberate you from all your problems. Knowledge of the truth need not liberate you from all your problems. If this is the stand, if this is the stand taken by somebody, then that will establish one thing, that nobody need to go after the truth. That means there is no use of trying to find out what the truth is, because even if I find out the truth, it is not going to help me. A non-helping truth, why should I go after? Why should I go after? And if it is really true that knowing the truth need not help me, knowing the truth, if it need not help me, and that it need not help me, if that stand were true, God, we would not have found ourselves with a thinking mind. Because the only purpose of the mind is only to understand, to finally determine the truth. Mind has no other purpose. Mind has only one purpose, that is searching and finding the fulfillment. The very job of the mind is not a means of pleasure. Manaha is a means of determining what the truth is. Where I can really. Because the purpose of the mind can be only that by gaining which the mind resolves. That is the problem. Where the mind resolves, in achieving which goal the mind resolves, that alone is the purpose of the mind. That is not the final purpose, that is the sole purpose. After writing, you keep the pen aside, and therefore writing is the sole purpose of the pen, not final purpose. There is no final purpose, that is the sole purpose. When I am not writing, that is the purpose of the pen. When I am writing, that is the purpose of the pen. The sole purpose of the pen is to write. Like the sole purpose of the eyes is to see the form. There is no other purpose. You can't say to see the form is the final purpose of the eyes. All right. If that is seeing the form is the final purpose of the eyes, then what is the initial purpose? What is the initial purpose of the eyes? I say that is the sole purpose. Similarly, the sole purpose of the mind also is to know the truth. It is only searching for the truth. It is groping for the truth. I am groping for the truth. That groping in darkness for the truth. And this groping will not come to an end. This thinking will not come to an end. This thinking gets fulfilled only when I think and determine what the truth is. And if you say, knowing the truth itself need not liberate me from this truth, from the problems, then I would not have had the mind whose sole purpose is to know the truth. A lot of problems will come. You can't. It is easy to say something, but difficult to defend it. Hey Rama. And therefore, here Bhagavan says, he asks a question. Kutaschana pradhanam sachabda vachyam. Why else? Truth doesn't mean matter. Truth means only the observer. The word sat, the word the source, refers not to something material. The word source does not refer to something material. The word source refers to Chetanam. For this, Vyasa gives a logic, that is next sutra, Swapyayat. Swa, Apyaya, Apyayat. Only two words. It's actually one word, Swapyaya. Swapyaya, like Rama. And Panchami is Swapyayat. You know, this is the sutra in which the whole discussion is packed in that sutra. The source of the universe is not something material because man, the mind goes back to, this individual goes back to himself in sleep. What we call sleep, man goes back to the source. Mind goes back to its source. This individual goes back to the source. And going back to the source in sleep does not mean going back to something other than oneself. It is going back to oneself. So if the conscious being is going back to himself in sleep, then definitely conscious being is going back to conscious being. Conscious being is not going back to matter. Conscious being doesn't go back to matter. In fact, he transcends matter. Supposing I sleep unto matter, then I should feel matter. What I go unto, what I go back to, I should feel it. But in deep sleep, when I close my eyes and fall asleep, I don't feel matter. I don't feel the body. I don't feel the world. I don't feel thoughts, emotions, nothing. I don't feel anything. What I don't feel, that means I have transcended it. I have gone away from it. I have gone away from it. I have transcended it. So if I have transcended matter, then you can't say I have gone back to matter. Anubhava says we transcend matter in sleep. Anubhava says, Anubhava, our universal experience tells. Our experience tells in sleep we transcend matter. And transcending matter doesn't amount to going back to matter. Transcending matter doesn't amount to going back to matter. Transcending matter means leaving matter. And leaving matter means going back to Chaitana. Thus, sleep as an anubhava, sleep as an experience is clearly telling us that we go back to ourselves in sleep. Swa means oneself, Atma. Swa, swa, swa. Swa means apna. Swa. कहते हैं ना स्वयं. राम जी ने स्वयं लंका गया. राम जी ने स्वयं रावण को वध किया. और इन कोर्ट्स में से मैंने स्वयं देखा. मैंने स्वयं देखा. एंड इन उर्दू जैसे मैं तो खुद देखा. खुद 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 देखा मीन्स व्हाट? स्वयं देखा. खुद extends only up to the body. Swayam extends to Brahman. Swayam dekha. Swa means oneself, the subject. Apyaya, and take the next word. Be clear about it. In Sanskrit, there is a particular root called I. In. Gatau, in the sense of going. Eti means gacchati, goes. And if you add api, a prefix, and then say apyeti, means resolves. The wave resolves back unto its own source. That is called apyayaha, the noun. Apyeti is the verb, resolves. It resolves means apyeti. Resolution is called apyayaha. Swa-apyayaha means in sleep there being the resolution back unto oneself. If in sleep we resolve back unto ourselves but not unto matter, then the resolution is always unto the source. Resolution is never unto the effect. The resolution is always unto the source. Therefore, in sleep, if we resolve, we are resolving back unto the source, and that source is not matter, because the experience tells us that we don't resolve unto matter in sleep. We transcend matter and resolve unto ourselves. Sleep as an experience is also a proof, is also a proof of the fact that the source of matter is not another matter. The source is not matter. Matter is transcendable. Matter resolves unto the source. Mind resolves unto the Chetanam. And therefore, sleep also testifies to the fact that the source cannot be the matter. Therefore, Pradhanam is not Jagat Karanam. You see that? This is all very peculiar, thorough analysis, because there is a lot of terminology. When it is a long analysis of the truth, and in analyzing, in determining the truth of our being, if that is what is being done, no terminology is no effort is painful. No terminology is painful. No literature is painful. Nothing should be a problem. I should be able to admire and appreciate any amount of literature, any amount of terminology, any amount of terseness as a part of determining the truth of truth of our being, truth of the whole universe. That is called Shastram, determining our truth. And in the process of determining the truth, if I have to learn a bit of terminology, it was what is it? No price is too high in determining the truth. Because the whole life man is living only for truth, and even though he doesn't know, he only wants fulfillment. Okay, Bhashyam. Clear swapyayat. Tadeva satchabdavachyam. The meaning of the word sat. Karanam, the source of the universe. Prakritya, pertaining to it. Shruyate, heard. We hear some vakya. We hear in Chandogya. We hear in the 6th chapter of Chandogya when Uddalaka is teaching Shvetaketu. When Uddalaka is teaching Shvetaketu. And where the Mahavakya comes there, Uddalaka says like this. Yatra, see the Vakya now, the Shruti Vakya. Yatra, where Etat Purusha, this human being, this individual, this Purusha can be any living being. Need not be a human being. Could be a, and there also it is said, Vyakrova, Vrikova, Vyagrova, Patangova, Mashakova, Dagamshova, Yadyat Bhavati Tada Bhavati. Hey, whether it is a tiger goes to sleep, a wolf goes to sleep, Simha goes to sleep, or as a wasp goes to sleep, or a fly goes to sleep, it doesn't matter. They all go back to their Swarupa. And then when they wake up, they don't recognize exactly what happened to them. Where the mind resolved, where the individuality resolved, and where it rises, that they are ignorant, though they get resolved unto the truth, but they don't know. Even though they go to Brahmaloka, they don't know. They went and came back from Brahmaloka. This is what Vedanta says. The tiger and the wolf go into Brahmaloka. They go to Brahmaloka. When they go to sleep, they go to Brahmaloka. And they come back. But they don't know that they are coming straight from Brahmaloka. Not only they don't know, but even human beings don't know. And that is being quoted here. Yatra, where Etat Purusha. I think we should take a class for them. That is the only way to ask them to come and join us. Yatra, where Etat Purusha, this Jiva, Swapiti, sleeps. When an individual sleeps, Swapiti Nama, Sata, with the truth. Sat means the source, Sata means with the truth, this third case, with the truth. Saumya, hey Shvetaketu, Uddalaka is telling, hey Saumya, hey Shvetaketu, when man sleeps, Sata Sampanno Bhavati, he becomes one with the truth. He renounces his biological identity, he renounces his human identity. His human identity resolves. That resolution of his human identity is called sleep. This resolution of biological human identity is called, that notional identity is called sleep. And when his biological and physiological identity resolves, then what remains? Only Sat. He is there as the Sat. Minus that identity. It's like saying, when the wave resolves, it stands as the water. That means it renounces its identity as the wave. When the wave renounces its identity as the wave, it stands as water. But even when it stood as wave, actually it remained only as the water, but it always thought, I am the wave. So when the wave resolves, it renounces the wave identity. Then there is only water. Similarly, when a human being renounces his human identity, then what remains? Sat. Sata, Saumya, Tada, Sampannaha, Bhavati, Yada, Swapiti. When man sleeps, he becomes one with the Sat. You can say he becomes one with the Sat. In fact, the better way of putting it is, when man sleeps, when man renounces his identity as a human being, when he renounces his biological identity, he stands the truth. Ittam bhave tritiya, Vyakarana allows. You don't become one with the truth, becomes in a kind of a combination. You become one with the truth, this hand is one with this hand, this one with, quote unquote, can be interpreted as a combination of truth. In order to avoid that interpretation, it is better to understand that Satha, the third case, as he stands as the truth. He doesn't stand one with the truth, he stands as the truth. Stands as the truth. You see? Sata, Saumya, Tada, then Sampanno Bhavati. And that is why it is called Swam. What does it mean? He becomes the truth. What does it mean? Swam, apne aap ko. Second case. Apito bhavati. Resolves. One resolves back into oneself. One goes back unto oneself, quote unquote, meaning I renounce my notional identity and remain the actual truth. That is called resolution. Because resolution is not another transformation. Where all transformations resolve, that is called resolution. Resolution is not another change. Parinama is different from laya. Parinama is different from laya. When the small wave becomes a big wave, let us say, you can call it in a way parinama. It's a kind of a change. The smaller grows and becomes bigger. So the smaller growing bigger can be interpreted as change. Okay. But when the wave, that is not called a resolution. But when the wave ceases to be the wave, it renounces its identity as the wave and stands water. That is called laya. That is called a laya. If that is so, that is what is called going back to itself. When the wave renounces its notional identity and stands its actual swarup, actual identity, it renounces its notional identity and stands in its own actual identity. That is called going back to itself. Swam apito bhavati. The wave renounces its identity as wave and stands in its actual swarupa identity as water. That is called going back to itself. So going back to itself is not another process of change. Laya is not another parinama. That is why here he says, Sata tada sampanno bhavati, swam apito bhavati, tasmat, therefore, enam, this sleeping individual, swapiti tyachakshate, Shastra gives a namakaranam to the sleeper. Shastram does namakaranam to the sleeper. Namakaranam, it gives a name. What is it? Swapiti, the sleeper. I mean, in English we call it sleeper, but in Sanskrit, Swapiti. Swapiti means what? The one who has gone back to himself. The sleeper is described by the Shastra as Swapiti. Like Aditi, you have names, like Aditi. Swapiti. Swapiti means what? He has gone back to himself. Swarup mein lay hoya. Swarup mein lay hua. That is why, right at that time, we have a tradition. Don't wake up a sleeping man. क्योंकि अपनी स्वरूप में है होने दो थोड़ा. Before he gets up and raises the music on it. Because no vidhi shastram, no vidhi pratisheda shastram is no vidhi pratisheda shastram is applicable to a person in sleep. Neither can you give him an advice to sleep because he is already asleep. Nor can you give him a don't, please don't sleep. Because if a person is doing the right action, you can say, please continue the right action. Or if a person is doing the wrong action, you can say, don't do the wrong action. If a person is not doing the right action, you can say, do the right. Therefore, do's and don'ts are applicable inside the waking state. Do's and don'ts, vidhi pratishedas are applicable to only in the waking state. But for a man in sleep, vidhi pratishedas don't apply. Why? Because he is not doing anything forbidden. Nor is he need to do something right. There is no need to do some right action because he is peaceful. There is no need to do anything. In a state of peace, you don't need to do anything. It is a state of fulfillment. It is a state of peace. It is a state of serenity. It is a state of being with oneself. And therefore we always say, don't wake up. Let him wake up, apne aap uthne do. Instead of you are committing the sin of waking up a person, you give him an alarm. Let the alarm clock incur all the sin. See, you don't. Let the alarm do it. Ask him, somebody asks, please wake me up. No, I'm not going to wake you up. You better put an alarm. Have an alarm clock. जो भी पुण्य पाप होगा आपका होगा हमारा नहीं. I mean, that is not the topic here. What I am saying is that also is referred to a sleeping person should not wake. Why? Because he is in Swarupa. Therefore here swam apito bhavati tasmadenam swapititi achakshate. That is why it is well known in the world and the Shastram that a man in sleep is described by the term Swapiti. True to what is happening there. It's not a misnomer. It is a very active description. It is act because one does go back to oneself and therefore Swapiti. Okay. Swam hi apito bhavati. Shastra Buddhalaka is saying one indeed goes back to oneself. It's not a speculation. Swam hi apito bhavati. One indeed resolves back into one. We don't experience our going back to matter. We don't experience our going back to matter. We don't experience our going back to any kind of matter. We only experience transcending matter. And transcending matter, transcending thought, transcending the body is going back to oneself, the subject. And that subject is not matter, because that is also in the form of anubhava. If it is in the form of anubhava, it is chetana. Sleep is in the form of anubhava. Don't look for anubhava inside sleep. sleep as a whole is a matter of anubhava. Like waking, there is no anubhava inside waking. That's a wrong language. Waking as a whole is my anubhava. Dream as a whole is my anubhava. Don't say there is anubhava in the waking. No. Waking is a matter of anubhava. Dream is a matter of anubhava. Under negation is a matter of anubhava. Because there is something called freedom from both. That is also anubhava. Thus, if sushupti is anubhava, experience, then experience means awareness. So it is chetanam, not jadam. Iti. Thus, the Bhashyakara, while commenting upon this particular sutra, he first brings in the Chandogya Shruti to argue on the basis of this, to tell the Pradhanavadi, don't imagine the source of the universe is material, because the source of the creation is the very subject as the absolute. In this direction, if man undertakes thinking, if man undertakes thinking, exploration in the direction of the subject, he may make 1,000 mistakes. Ultimately, he will understand the observer as the truth. But you have to be thinking in that direction. But the entire truth is sought only in terms of matter. We are going after the matter. That is all right. But ultimately, even if you say matter became matter was in the form of subtle matter and subtle matter became gross matter, ultimately you will always be speculating about matter as the source of matter, not non-matter as the source of matter. Okay, thus anyway here the Shastriya Paddhati, this style of the scripture is to show, and it is meant to show this exploration into the truth is not some kind of process. It is only looking into our own anubhavas. What do our anubhavas tell us? What do our anubhavas present us? What do they indicate? Thus exploring into our own, looking at our own anubhavas is the vichara here. Not some kind of some speculation, etc. Okay, we'll continue it later. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.